The two honorable mentions I have for most improved player are Cade Cunningham and Tyrese Maxey. Although he was selected with the first pick in 2021, Cade Cunningham's NBA career hasn't been what was expected. After a nice rookie season, Cade only played in 12 games last year. The hype revolving him has really died down, and he'll be able to catch a lot of people by surprise. One of the biggest reasons why I didn't pick him is because I expect the Pistons to finish at the bottom of their conference. You don't really expect winning to matter much with most improved player, so let's look at the past few winners. Julius Randle and John Morant led playoff teams, while the Jazz were a 500 team until late February. You don't need to be winning a lot, but it definitely helps your case. While I do like what Cade can provide with a much better team around him, making the play-in would be a good year for Detroit. One player whose team I know will win is Tyrese Maxey. The James Harden situation is the reason I have him as an honorable mention and didn't pick him at the same time. If Harden does sit out, Maxey was able to excel in a similar situation with Ben Simmons during the 2022 season. With Tyrese playing next to the reigning MVP, Philly should be winning games as at least the 5th seed. The thing is, Maxey's role isn't entirely set for next season. Harden could be traded any day now, sit out the whole year, or have his best season with the Sixers. You don't know what Tyrese's responsibilities are, and that makes me lose confidence when picking him for MIP. My actual pick for the award is Mikal Bridges. Since he was traded to Brooklyn, Mikal has averaged 27 points per game on excellent shooting splits. Not only is he the best player on a team in the playoff race, but he's also one of their best defenders. Some may argue that his improvement won't be as significant compared to other players, since he performed so well with the Nets. Another argument is that other teams might know how to scheme against this new version of Mikal. Still, he's now heading into the season as the team's go-to guy who's shown he could play at an all-star level. While his leap in improvement might not be viewed as the biggest, Bridges will have a more defined role than Maxey and a better record than Cade. I don't expect 27 every night, but 25 with some great efficiency and DPOY level defense has me giving him the award. Speaking of the Defensive Player of the Year, it was definitely the hardest for me to pick. It was so hard for me to decide that I changed my pick after writing his segment. I had 5 players in mind, but my 2 honorable mentions are Anthony Davis and Giannis Antetokounmpo. AD has had the reputation of an elite defender since college, and he still earns it to this day. He's also one of the most important players on a team that made the conference finals last season. The reason I'm not making him my selection is due to injury history. With the new rule that you have to play at least 65 games to qualify for awards, the last time he would have qualified was in 2018. He definitely has the prowess to earn the award, and the Lakers can definitely win a lot of games, but I hesitate to pick AD. A player who's been on some of the best teams in the league while being an excellent defender is former DPOY Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't feel like I have to make the case for Giannis that much. Since the 2018-2019 season, the Bucks haven't been a top 5 defense once, and some of the key factors as to why are the 2-time MVP's shot blocking ability and crazy wingspan. With Dame now on the roster, Giannis can conserve more of his energy for defense as he handles less of an offensive workload. When it comes to how much his team can win, the Bucks are arguably the best team in the league. The 2 things that hold me back from picking him are these. With Adrian Griffin as their new head coach, we don't know what their defensive scheme may look like. Brook Lopez is another reason. He could regress this year, but he finished 2nd in DPOY voting after the 2022-2023 season. One of the best defenders in the league on one of the best teams could very well win his 2nd Defensive Player of the Year, but he's not my final decision. The Cavs had the best defensive rating last season. They were led by their power forward going into his 3rd season, Evan Mobley. Mobley individually has the talent to win Defensive Player of the Year, as he made all-defensive first team and finished 3rd in voting last season. In the past 15 years, every team that had a DPOY had a top 5 defensive rating. Out of that 15-year time span, 11 teams finished either 1st or 2nd in their conference. I don't know how high the Cavs will rank in the East with teams like the Celtics, Bucks, Sixers, Heat, and Knicks, but if they could finish 3rd or 4th while still playing great defense, Evan is a serious contender. There's a possibility that if the race for DPOY does get close and Mobley's in it, the fact he has Jarrett Allen may affect how many votes he gets. Regardless, I have Evan Mobley winning Defensive Player of the Year. The NBA isn't just about stars, so let's look at the 6th man of the year. Emmanuel Quickley and Chris Paul are 2 guys I'd like to mention. He finished 2nd in voting last year, and with Brogdon out of Boston, Quickley is one of the frontrunners for the award. Similar to my issue with Evan Mobley, I don't expect the Knicks to be at the very top of the Eastern Conference. Another issue I have when picking Emmanuel is how well he plays as a starter versus off the bench. There's a big decline in production that has to be considered. The stats aren't from a 5-game sample size. They're from 21 games. Since his best games are from when he's a starter, while also not being on an elite team, I didn't pick Emmanuel as my 6th man. From day one, I haven't liked the idea of Chris Paul on the Warriors. That being said, he absolutely has the talent to win 6th man of the year, but will face some challenges. For some reason, it seems that the organization plans to run him with the starting lineup. The Warriors had one of the best starting lineups in the league last year, but what they needed was some more bench depth and to be better on defense. But having Chris, Curry, and Klay start makes the Warriors much worse defensively. Not only that, but CP3's playstyle of being the primary ball handler doesn't mesh well with how the Warriors run their offense. Because of this, I think if he's still on the team by the end of the season, CP3 will play off the bench. I'd rather see Chris run with Kuminga and Moody than with Steph and Draymond. The point guard would be able to get players like Jonathan to their spots, like he did for Shea, Mikal, and Ayton. Granted, to a lesser degree. Chris Paul is a starting level guard who continues to be one of the best playmakers in the league. The situation he's in is why he's not my pick. Bobby Portis is the guy I think will win 6th Man of the Year. Bobby already has shown he could have a 6th Man of the Year caliber season since he finished 3rd in voting last year. Portis gets most of his points in the post and paint, and with Dame's gravity, he has more scoring opportunities while teams focus on Lillard. As I said earlier, I expect Milwaukee to do great this season, and Bobby's impact off the bench can possibly earn him 6th Man of the Year. With some new faces in the league, Scoot Henderson and Chet Holmgren are my honorable mentions for Rookie of the Year. In all honesty, I really want to say Scoot will win Rookie of the Year, and I want to say it even more with Dame off the roster. When you look at recent history, players with a similar prototype have won the award. Scoot is already used to playing against some of the best in the world, due to him playing on the G League Ignite. What causes me not to pick him is how many touches he can get. With Simons, Ayton, and Sharp on the team, he won't get as many opportunities compared to my final pick. Let's not forget that Malcolm Brogdon and Jeremy Grant may get some run to improve their trade value. Henderson is one of the players I'm most excited to see next season, and he very well could win Rookie of the Year. If you watch my video about improving teams, you'd know what I think the Thunder can do. Chet may have missed last season, but he can really help a team in the playoff hunt. He'll be able to add some defense and size to the Thunder. He did get the year to rehab his foot injury, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him on a minute restriction or be out for a couple of games. An NBA career is a marathon, not a race. And if they try to ease Chet into more playing time, he could be out for a fair amount, which would affect voting. You probably predicted that my Rookie of the Year would be Victor Wembanyama. With the Wemby hype getting bigger every day, he has some crazy expectations to live up to. The 7'4" prospect can handle the ball, defend against it, rebound it, and score. He's one of the most unique rookies of all time who just joined a winning franchise. Coming off of one of the best MVP races in NBA history, there are plenty of candidates for Most Valuable Player. Because of this, I'll give 5 players that are ranked based on who I think is most likely to get the award. At number 5, I have Luka Doncic. The point guard can average 27, 7, and 7 in his sleep, but I don't know how competitive the Mavericks will be next season. How they finish their year makes it hard for me to say that they'll be up there with some of the biggest threats in the West. There are 11 playoff caliber teams in the conference, and if the race gets close like it did last season, they could finish as the 4th seed or miss the play-in again. Luka Doncic has the individual talent to win MVP, but since Dallas is a wild card in a competitive Western Conference, he's at number 5. Joel Embiid is at the 4th spot. Embiid is the reigning MVP, but there are a lot of things that didn't go his way after the regular season ended. The Sixers flamed out in the playoffs and then had their second best player request a trade. When looking at recent history, bad playoffs affect MVPs. The playoffs are one thing that affected Jokic's votes last season and Giannis's votes in 2021. Not only that, but he really has to show out to win the award back-to-back. With the Bucks and Celtics getting better, being at the top of the East with his current team will be hard. With all that in mind, Joel is at number 4. Another elite center is Nikola Jokic. He's 3rd on my list. Jokic is the best player in the league, but it'll be hard to keep that same level of success. Not only did the Nuggets win the championship, but they were the 1st seed and had their core stay healthy for the regular season and playoffs. Jokic almost averaged a triple-double with a true shooting percentage of 70.1 if you want to look at personal stats. It'll be very hard to have a similar or better season. If the Joker was to win the MVP this season, he would have won 3 of them in 4 years. You can argue some people overrate the effects of voter fatigue, but that will definitely come into play. Nikola could definitely win it, but he's at 3. The runner-up to MVP is Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's been a while since Giannis won his 2nd MVP in 2020. Even though he missed a lot of time last season, he still helped lead the Bucks to the best record in the league. Similar to Embiid, Giannis finished the postseason underwhelmingly and hurt, and his playoff exit may affect his votes as well. Out of the 5 teams that my MVP candidates are on, Damian Lillard is the biggest new face. Adding a top 10 caliber guy will really help out the team, but Giannis' individual stats will take a dip. I wouldn't argue if you had him as your MVP, but Giannis is in 2nd place for me. My actual pick for Most Valuable Player is Jason Tatum. When looking at if he has the talent for it, Jason has made 1st team All-NBA multiple times and is one of the best players in the league. He finished 4th in MVP voting last season. The 25-year-old has now reached his prime next to 3 other All-Star caliber talents. Do I think Jalen, Kristaps, and Drew will affect voting? Of course. But I also think the 3 of them can really help Tatum add wins for Boston. Drew's offensive game isn't the most polished, Porzingis has had an injury history for years, and you never know what you're going to get with Jaylen Brown. They're really good players, but they're not perfect. And it's not like their bench will be the same, since the Celtics lost some of their depth this offseason. Jason will still be their go-to guy on one of the best teams in the league, even though I fully expect his scoring to go down. And if Tatum does win it, it wouldn't be the first time the MVP had some great teammates. You can make the case he also had a bad postseason like Embiid and Giannis, but Jason definitely had more positive moments compared to the 2 of them. He was the one that put up 51 points in Game 7 versus Philly, and then helped lead the Celtics to Game 7 versus Miami. And while he did lose that game, he played with a hurt ankle. Tatum has a better team than Luka, won't be viewed as harshly as Giannis, and won't have to deal with voter fatigue like Jokic and Embiid will. The MVP race will be very close this year, but my prediction before the season starts is Jason Tatum. Now, if you want to talk about predicting champions, one of the favorites to win this year are the Bucks. I looked at the winners and losers of the Damian Lillard trade. If you want to see who won and lost, click the video on your screen.